Hey, everybody, we're live. Well, Ken Stefanski, the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, decided to do the wuss, cowardly, oh, I don't want to deal with the press, I don't want to take any questions move in announcing through media sources I never heard of that Jameis Winston is going to be benched for Dorian Thompson Robinson. What was the immediate reaction? Well, the immediate reaction was simply this, that the Miami game was put into negative flex time. In other words, rather than being a marquee matchup to see at 1 o'clock, guess what? No, it's not the marquee matchup to see. It's not promoted. Why? Because Jameis Winston is not the starter. And the Browns have basically sent this message that, hey, look, maybe Jameis gives us a better chance to win, but maybe we really just want to tank. And so I'm now believing that call came from ownership to say, you know what? We're going to do this because we don't want to win. We just want to play out the string, get a little draft pick so we can start all over again. And guess what? That's idiotic because the Browns don't have enough capital to play with to even get themselves a higher position in the draft. I mean, think about it. The Browns have this albatross around their neck in the form of Deshaun Watson. And rather than just unload Watson and say, you know what, we're going to put him on waivers, which they can do, they choose to keep him. And they could have made a deal for him. But their own behavior is we have to have him in our locker room. They could have turned around and said, you know what, Jameis Winston has been an incredible spark for us. He's the reason why the Monday Night Football game that we played against the Broncos got better ratings than it should have gotten. He's the reason why we put him. They made Jameis Winston the face of the team. The Cleveland Browns have not made Dorian Thompson Robinson the face of their team. They put Jameis Winston out on advertisements and everything. Okay, everything. Then all of a sudden, because of this claim of interceptions on a very day where, let's see, Will Levis threw 3 interceptions, a number of quarterbacks, some of very good variety, threw 3 interceptions on Sunday. And I'm going to go back and check because it may very well have been a record day for quarterbacks throwing 3 interceptions. Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions 3 weeks ago. And guess what? No one made a noise about it because the Lions won. Why did the Lions win? Because the Lions defense consistently got the ball back for the Lions offense to keep the team in the game. That's why. Which means the Cleveland Browns defense isn't good enough to bail out its offense. And yet, Kevin Stefanski, the current head coach of the Cleveland Browns, arguably he should be fired, along with Ken Dorsey, offensive coordinator, should be fired yesterday. Okay? Yesterday. I mean, yesterday, Ken Dorsey should have been fired. Okay? Straight up, yesterday, Ken Dorsey should have been fired. Okay? Period. End of story. No question about it. Get him the blank out of here. Should have been fired. All right? No sugarcoating it or anything else. Ken Dorsey should have been fired. And yet, they didn't do that. Ken Dorsey does not know how to teach the passing game. He's one of these people that draws patterns on paper and has this idea in his mind they'll work because of something he did years ago or something he thought he saw on film, but he never really bothered to sit down then and mathematically ask himself, well, will this play work? Do I have enough time to make it work? and under the type of blocking I'm using, do I give my quarterback enough time? And then the linchpin question is, okay, if I have a guy like Jameis Winston, national champion, Heisman Trophy winner, declared the chosen one in college, all that, how is it that only Sean Payton was able to get Jameis Winston to throw for 14 touchdowns and just 3 interceptions in 7 games in 2021? And then you would copy that, right? But instead of copying that, Ken Dorsey, who was brought in when Jameis Winston was named the quarterback, decided he was going to go aggressive. Now, it turns out that aggressive in Ken Dorsey's nomenclature means he calls passes that are risky by design. Like, Bruce Arians, risk it, no biscuit. And so if Jameis throws a touchdown, Ken Dorsey looks good. But if Jameis throws an interception, all Ken Dorsey has to do is, throw up his hands, throw a little tantrum, say, oh my God, and blame Jameis. This has nothing to do with coaching. Ken Dorsey does not know how to coach a ball control passing offense to save his life or your life or anybody else's. That's a fact, Jack. Ken Dorsey's idea of aggressive passing is dangerous passing. And yet some of you out there are stupid. This is what you do. You're like, you see it, but you don't understand that somebody else is pulling the strings. And they are. That somebody else is Ken Dorsey. I guess you forgot earlier this season when Dorian Thompson-Robinson was named the starter over Jameis Winston, and then some claim that, well, it was because Jameis changed play on a 4th and 1. Well, look, I don't believe that's the case, but let's say that if that's true. He changed the play. So what? All right? He changed the play because he saw something. He's a veteran. So now you're saying to Jameis, I don't want you changing any of my plays. Which means that gives you, the Ken Dorseys and the Kevin Stefanskis of the world, full freedom to ask him to do any stupid thing you want him to do. If the stupid thing doesn't work well, you just blame him. You let him take the fall. You all are weak. You're weak little people. That's what little weak people do, Little ones that, remember the kids in the hall would say, I'm crushing your head because you have a small brain. I'm crushing your head. That's what I'm doing to you guys. I'm crushing your head. I'm crushing your head because your heads are so small. You're crushing your head. You're ridiculous. You're ridiculous. And Haslam should have fired all of you mid-season, kept the quarterback room, all right, and let it be that. And speaking of the quarterback room, how about Deshaun Watson out there not speaking up for Jameis Winston when Jameis Winston spoke up for Deshaun Watson? Do you hear Watson saying anything? I don't. Tells you about his character. Jameis is out there being team player, helping everybody, including Watson, coming to Watson's defense when the whole world hates him, as Jameis said. All right? Jameis stuck his neck out when he didn't have to, but he felt it was right to do because the crowd was booing a man who got injured, which is morally wrong. Jameis saw that and spoke up. Jameis Winston is a man. The Browns do not like a strong black man. That's really what this is about. The Browns don't like Jameis Winston because he's a strong black man who is experienced, who will make a change when he sees it, who makes a call. That's what this entire season's been about. That's what it was about with the Saints. He made a play change. All right? But the white NFL ownership doesn't want you as a black person to make those decisions, which is why there should be black NFL ownership. Okay? What are you saying? So that the black person has a certain... I'm saying that the culture would be different, I believe. Now, some of you out there might throw the Memphis Police example at me and say, well, Zenny, they're all black and yet they're hurting black people. And I say, you're absolutely right. We have a problem there. But that's not football. That's policing, and that goes to the heart of abuse, the abuse culture that we faced. Different story. Different story. Okay? In this instance, look, you show me an example where I'm wrong. Show me example. I just want to see one. Think about it. Dennis Allen got mad because Jameis Winston ran a play. It was clear. It was absolutely clear that the game was over. The Saints intercept the pass, bring it all 8 to the 1. What else is there to do? Take it in and score. It's football. You say you don't want to hurt Arthur Smith's feelings? So what? Maybe he'll be a better coach next time. You got a guy who will get $1 million bonus if you let him carry the ball to score. Good, do it. And so Jameis made that decision on behalf of the teammates who said, you know what, let's help this guy. And shame on Dennis Allen, who's now fired, for not backing Jameis. Ultimately and spiritually, it cost him his job. And the same is going to happen to Kevin Stefanski and Ken Dorsey. Ken Dorsey should be fired right now. But Kevin Stefanski should be fired too. Now they would say, well, it's the ownership that wants to do it. Don't you have the cojones to tell the ownership, you know what? Tanking is not going to get a player is necessarily going to help us. But they're not going to say that at all. They're going to go along with what Haslam wants. Who doesn't know football, owns the team. You have to be strong-willed enough to say to your boss, you know what? Boss, that's the wrong move. Here's our plan for the future, which Kevin Stefanski didn't do. He's a go-along-to-get-along guy. You know, he was cross-country over with Deshaun Watson over the summer at some little symposium or thing, whatever they were doing. It's quite clear that Deshaun Watson literally has the Cleveland Browns in his back pocket for a set of reasons that I'm not privy to, but do point to the fact that they gave him a 1/3 of $1 billion contract, and all guaranteed. And yeah, they got to pay it. That doesn't mean they have to pay him. You know what? The logical thing to do is, hey, you know what? Sit him. Jameis is making more money for us. Let Jameis make money for us so we can pay him. And him. That's a smart way to play it. But these folks are not smart. They are not smart. And yet they're given the opportunity to run a football team. Oh, yay. Okay? But they're not smart. And again, I'll say this again. Fire Ken Dorsey. Ken Dorsey is not a good offensive coordinator. He's a pattern drawer who has no idea what he's drawing. Think of all of the plays that Ken Dorsey has left off the table. And Stefanski. Stefanski told a person a year ago that the escort screen, where the fullback or tight end is ahead of the halfback, was going to be all the rage and the trend in 2024. Great. So how come it's not in the Cleveland Browns grouping of plays to call? How come you didn't give it to Jameis Winston to call? Hey, I remember Sean Payton running that play in 2020. Yeah, the escort screen. All right. Someone called it a jailbreak screen. It wasn't jailbreak. It was escort. Well, actually, if you add a pulling guard to it, then okay, fine. But my point is that the play wasn't used by the Cleveland Browns. Another play not used by Dorsey with Jameis Winston. The old wide receiver turned to the quarterback. You know? Hey, snap the ball, throw it out to the wide receiver on the line of scrimmage and let the wide receiver pick up the yards. Why are you doing that? Because the defensive backs are so far off. All right. Did they do that? Nope. So what would happen? hey, the defensive backs would kind of, stay back there, or when they kept up close, it was to stop those quick outs. And so what happened against the Broncos? Pick six. Kevin Dorsey does not know how to design a ball control passing game. He just doesn't. Someone was stupid enough to say, well, how come, it wasn't Ken Dorsey that had Jameis Winston throwing the triple coverage. It wasn't triple coverage. The Chiefs had rotated their safeties coming in, but it was designed that way. If you take a look at that play, Jameis goes back, play action real quick, and immediately launches the ball. Elijah Moore is headed straight up downfield. There's no second receiver. In other words, there's no check down. There's no number two. And the receiver that would have produced himself as the check down was Jerome Ford, but Jerome Ford was actually in blocking first, and then he slowly meandered out so that by the time he actually got beyond the line of scrimmage, Jameis Winston was already into his throwing motion to launch what he was led to believe by Dorsey be a touchdown pass that was thrown on time. The Chiefs were ready for it. Okay? That was Ken Dorsey's fault. If you look at that play, it's like all go. There's no intermediate pattern way back short. That was deliberate. Ken Dorsey was looking for a touchdown, and yet he wasn't man enough to admit it later. And that's what I'm talking about. Kevin Stefanski and Ken Dorsey, they don't act like they have honor. I don't know them. I'm going by how their behavior.
Patricia, okay? Or Patricia Yerger?
Excuse me for a second. So, as I was saying, the bottom line is neither of these men are honorable. Honorable men do not treat people like they treated Jameis Winston this year. I'll say that straight up. I'll say that somebody's face. Okay? Because this goes down to character. How you treat people. You don't treat people the way that the Browns treated Jameis Winston. Or for that matter, the Saints brass. There's something with Jameis where they feel like we've got to make him dance, We've got to control him. They're not honorable. They don't believe in the Lord. And they don't even like it when Jameis gets on television and espouses his love for the Lord. And you can tell because the people who make negative comments about Jameis on this, more often than not, don't even use their real name on social media. That's telling. So how do I know that they're not representing the corporation who has these extra bots around and they're upset because Jameis is espousing his love for the Lord and belief in the Lord and unwavering faith? Remember that? Jameis Winston, when they came in, all right, Jameis Winston brought excitement to the team and wins. He had wins over the Ravens and he got wins over the Steelers. Okay? How does Ken Dorsey reward him? With a sucky game plan against the other opponents. Ken Dorsey isn't a bad offensive coordinator. Fire Ken Dorsey now. I end this by saying that. Again, fire Ken Dorsey now. Ken, if you're watching this, you need to get out. Pack your bags, leave. Leave. Go to college. Go back to learn how to coach ball control passing. Go to clinics. And look, they paid you $2.3 million. That's a ton of money. Okay? You got paid by the Bills. You're a millionaire. You can afford to take time off, I hope. Make yourself a better coach. Because this version of you, Ken Dorsey, is awful. And this is the only one that I've seen. When you're hard, I thought, wasn't he the guy that got fired by the Bills for Joe Brady? Joe Brady's still killing it with them. What are you doing? You're on to your second stint. You're screwing up in Cleveland too. Ken Dorsey, you're not a good offensive coordinator at all. You're an awful one. You're bad. You just draw patterns. You don't understand how to teach footwork. Look at the difference in the footwork when Jameis was under Sean Payton in 2021. You can see the practices and your practices, Ken Dorsey, today. You all pay no attention to footwork. So it's inconsistent. What does inconsistent footwork lead you? It leads you to inconsistent play, which means sometimes you get great Jameis and sometimes you don't. And then match that with the kind of patterns you called Ken Dorsey, which literally led, in the case of the Broncos, the defensive back, linebacker, all the way to pick off Jameis when he should have been over on the sidelines. That was your doing, Ken Dorsey, and yet you weren't either selection is not good. You're either not man enough to say that it was your mistake, and it was, or you didn't know it, which is worse because the play was drawn by you. Jameis didn't draw the play. Jameis Winston did not draw that play. You are awful, okay? And for Kevin Stefanski to not recognize that means he's awful too and should be fired. Clean house. Browns need to clean house. Haslam needs to clean house, start again, okay? And keep Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston is a strong black male role model we need today in the NFL. But instead of someone like a Jameis, then they try to make fake stories up about Jameis, like with Erica Kinsman. But I proved that was fake because Erica Kinsman's own husband admitted, okay, that they were up to shenanigans. I have the text messages to prove it. And I published them. Why? Because you others out there who are so-called journalists didn't do any work to find out that Jameis was being had. Just like in society. Black man, oh, he's got to be doing bad. But then you can't stand if he's not, so you have to make up a story. You're sick. You're sick. You're sick and disgusting. And that's the end of my stream. Do better as a society, okay? Do better. Do better. The reason why I stand up for Jameis Winston because I saw this going on a long time ago and figured they're using Jameis Winston as a tool to shape social thinking because of the fact that, hey, as an athlete, you get a huge platform. You have a huge platform for what you say, and you have a huge platform for what you do. The NFL controls that platform. The NFL can literally make you look like a bad player by putting you in situations that are not ideal. Think about that. And all of you watching this right now, you need to think about that. The NFL can manipulate how you look. They can make it seem like you're doing bad and the others is doing good. You have to understand how to fight that and how to know how to get around it. I do, because I've had experience at it. Why do you think I started Zenny 62 Media in the first place? Reputation management. Zenny62media.com. Send me an email. I know how to get around it. I know how to stop them from doing it in their tracks. Okay? All right. See ya.